Welcome to In Conversation with Gurjit Rana, the marriage expert. And I'm so excited. I have my first guest with me, Aman Sunner. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for accepting.
Amazing.
So I am really into your podcast at the moment, Find Your Self-Worth. You launched it at the very beginning of the year, 6 episodes already in. I've listened to it twice over. So I cannot wait to go deeper into it with you today. But first of all, for the audience, please tell us who you are and what you do. I know I've introduced you briefly.
Yeah, okay. So basically, episode 7 launched today. So that is out
Get that
as well. My name's Aman Sunner, and I'm your go-to self-worth mentor. I help women unlock their self-belief, master their emotions, and take back from negative thoughts, and that is taking back control. And I do that via conscious coaching, subconscious reprogramming, and energy clearing. So the framework of my coaching is a whole 4-body framework, which we can go into in a little while. But I don't just approach self-worth from one dimension or one angle. We really cover like your mental body, physical body, emotional, and energetic body as well.
Well, we're going to get into some of that today. And if I'm up to it, I might do some energy work with you live. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
But first of all, when I was listening through to the podcast, can I just first say huge congratulations. And I'm going to just put myself out there that when you first came on the scene, because you started way back during lockdown.
Yeah, I did, to 2020. My God, that sounds forever ago, doesn't it?
It does. But for me, it was like, I didn't know much about you. And then all of a sudden, this lovely woman burst onto the Instagram who was talking about unapologetic you, her events. And I was like, what is this all about? Right? I think that was around 2001 or 2022.
No, so I think my events I did 2022, 2023. That's right. It was part of the growth. It was part of like, when you're like, okay, can I do an event? Can I do this? Oh my God. And then I started doing events and I was like, yep, I love it. I can do it. It's amazing. And actually, I haven't done an event since 2023 because what I tend to do now is a lot more guest speaking, and I'll attend other people's events and speak as a guest expert at their events as well. So you never know, maybe another event will come again.
And I know, look, during lockdown, there was that weird time when, firstly, everyone had started becoming coaches. And then secondly, what pinged out about yourself more than anything, it was like, you made it cool for coaches like ourselves to be out there and hosting our own events. Because, even I was dabbling with events and, doing like Date with Intention or Vision of Love and stuff like that. But for me, what stood out about yourself was, hang on a minute, most of the time we always hear about the entrepreneur, the businesswoman who's hosting her events to inspire other women to start their businesses.
Yeah.
But how many of us were out there saying, hang on a minute, can we check in on our emotions? Can we talk about self-value, self-confidence? I was like, yes.
Yeah, I loved it. And it was, when you're saying that, it was the first event was, I wouldn't say difficult, but it was kind of like, like you're saying, a newer concept where people are like, do I? Because when it's for your business, people are so ready to go,
100%.
so ready to sign up. But when it's for you, you're like, do I need it? Should I go? Or you've got that, what are people going to say? If I go,
100%.
then they're going to think that I need help. And I'm like, if you go somewhere like a self-worth event, and somebody else is there, they're there for the same reason. Like, it's okay.
Exactly. And it's one of those, how do I put it, cliches or taboos of don't air your dirty laundry. And I have that with my events. The initiation, when they found relationship coach, I'm not talking to you about my like, you might not, I'm not going to ask you anything that you're uncomfortable with. Most of the times when we host events, it's more about giving information, making you feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah. And we love the interaction, but only if you're comfortable to give it, right?
Yeah.
Like when there's a group of people, that's why I do love you. You have your people that are just there to consume.
Yeah.
You've got people that are there to be part of the day and interact. And then you've got people that might hold back, might, do the work and get the transformation. And that's okay. That's more than okay.
Well, I personally want to say a huge thank you for inspiring me and giving me that confidence as well. Because listen, sometimes you have to look to your right before you'll make your move. And I am genuinely very fortunate that
you so much.
That has come over time. And I'm not going to say it was right there from the early days. No. But I'm just going to be really vulnerable and open. It was like, how dare she? It was like, how dare someone encroach in my space? Because like I say, there were so many people jumping onto the bandwagon, but what I took from you was just that of, and even now, I'm so proud that you've done your podcast
Oh,
because
yeah.
it is making those kind of moves, making it acceptable. We all hear about the big names, the Mel Robbins,
Yeah. Gabby
the Jay
Bernstein.
Shetty. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Gabby Bernstein. And we're all inspired by them, but you kind of almost expect that of them.
Yeah.
And what I love that you tackle on authentically and unapologetically is I'm a South Asian girl. I'm from Birmingham and this is me.
Yeah.
I'm just a regular girl who grew up in an Indian Punjabi family. Why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And that's what inspires the most of us
Do you
of
know
why
what
we do what we do.
Love that comes through, because that is exactly the reason I started this work. I worked with a coach for my own self-worth, for my own self-belief, because I struggled internally with that. Like outwardly, I was always confident, always bubbly, but inwardly there was that lack of self-belief. And I started working on myself. And when I did it, it was like, if I can do this, everyone can do this,
Yeah.
right? And it was like, I need to tell people about like this isn't normal.
Yeah.
As South Asians, we just take this lack of self-belief, whether it's people pleasing, whether it's fear of judgment, whether it's not being able to voice ourselves, and we turn it into our personality traits. And it's
Absolutely.
not. And when I realized it's not, I was like, the world needs to hear about this.
Well,
everyone needs to know.
Exactly. I was just reading the stats on it. If you took any industry stats, whether KPMG or some previous research done around about women in leadership, nearly somewhere between 60 to 75% say they go to work, they're confident in their role, but they're not confident in their choices and the way they come across.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And that had a profound effect because it is all about, we try and mimic what goes on in the professional world by a man, right? And I know male confidence is completely different. How do I put it? They can fake it till they make it. They use the ego, they use the competitiveness. And I think women have kind of taken on that is what confidence looks like. Be assertive, tell your opinion, dominate, shout, blah, blah. We think that is what confidence looks. That is not it.
No. So a couple of things on that, what you've just said. I do have clients that are really confident in their work and completely different at home.
Correct.
And it's because their work is their escapism. It's where they get to be a little bit more them rather than at home in relationships, in marriage, as a mum, as a daughter, a wife, whatever it is, they tend to be putting other people first. Whereas in work, it's like, okay, this is the shit that needs to get done. I have a lot of women, like I said, that are going to work confidently, doing their job, but at home, it's a different story. But also just what you touched on, literally a client this week I was talking to, and she said she's been wanting to ask her boss to be paid fairly. She's like, I do the work, everything's falling apart around here and I'm picking up the slack. So, and she goes, I thought if I was a guy, I would have just gone in there. But I've been mulling it over for about 2-3 weeks now. And we got on call and she was like, Aman, I just had the conversation. I just had the conversation. And he said to me, I see you, I hear you, I take it on board. And I was like, oh my God, you just had the courage to do it. Because like you said, men do work very differently. But yes, also this want to hustle, this want to be like a man and do is creeping in a lot at the moment.
Yeah, it's all about the masculine energy. And I see a lot of that, again, in the women that I work with, that it comes across as, oh, that's the way I need to be. And it's not. It's like you say, probably less of a mask on with when they come to me because they know they want to talk about relationships. So I don't have to work so hard. But it's 9 times out of 10 when you ask them about work, oh yeah, don't talk to me about that. That's sorted now.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not sorted.
So, I mean, it's difficult because there's 2 ways. Some women are naturally slightly more masculine. And again, like I've got a client at the moment who is something that she's struggling with. She likes to go to work. She's very career driven. And because of her husband's work, he tends to do the school pickups and drop-offs. Now to her, she's like, oh my God, I'm not woman enough. Like I'm not the one doing that. And we've been working on her actually owning who she is. Like I was like, why are you a triangle trying to fit into a square box? If that fits for your marriage, and your husband's always wanted to do the pickups and drop-offs because of his childhood and stuff that he's been through. And if you want to be the one that's working and stuff, and she said, oh, don't get me wrong, like I have the dinner ready for them when they get home. I was like, so, it's okay to do that. It's okay to be in your masculine if that's naturally what comes to you. Yeah. But the sad part is when you get feminine women trying to be in their masculine, and I've been there and done that, and it was soul sucking. It's what I call like I was trying on other people's confidence.
100%. one of the things, and this kind of touches on both self-worth and confidence. I think it was more confidence for me. When I was in my professional career or my corporate career, one of the things I always used to get told from my very early years of graduate and all the rest of it and flying through it was raise your profile, raise your profile. And to me, that looked like, okay, do more, be more, in the sense of be in more places, take on more projects, show that you're capable of doing it. It still wasn't building my inner confidence, right? And I still felt like I had to fight for my voice to be heard at work or in my decisions. And then as you not get older, but more longevity in your career and people get to know your personality, then it was like people could hear your voice, they could hear your ideas. But I often question, is it coming because of my seniority of my role? Is it coming from my experience? Or are they actually really wanting to listen to me?
So
you
what
question
I would say to
right?
that is, Gurja, obviously when you're young, were people beginning to understand you and get you because you were doing that yourself? Were you getting yourself better? Were you understanding yourself better? Like in your 20s, I spent my 20s, oh my God, trying to be different people because I didn't know who I was myself. Like, I'll try a bit of that and I'll try a bit of that. And, oh, that confidence looks good. Maybe I should act like this.
The best quote I'd ever heard, and I can't remember the company, I'm not going to name the company, should I say, it was, think about what would Jenny do? Be more like Jenny. I was like, what? I haven't picked on the name, simply for, for obvious. I picked on the name simply because we were seeing someone in the office, a female that was progressing. And I looked at Jenny, I thought, yeah, but she's quite, passive aggressive and she gets stuff done, gets shit done, basically. We can swear here. And I thought to myself, do I want to be like that?
Yeah.
Do I want to be known to be
like Jenny?
forceful and pushing? When's the deadline? Have you done it yet? I was like, I don't necessarily want to be like that.
Again,
and that was the role models that, sometimes
that
people
you were
would give
supposed to, and
them.
it's the, I'm going to quote boss babe thing.
That's it.
And if that works for you, that's brilliant. But what I would say is know who you are first before you then embody that. Yeah. If you know who you are and that is you, amazing, go with it. But a lot of the time, what we're saying is there's people trying to be that when it's not them. Like I was in a sales job and oh my goodness, I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't because I was trying to be this boss babe because everybody around me was. Yeah. And I thought that's how confidence works, that's how success looks, and I was just stepping into somebody that wasn't me, and because that wasn't me, I wasn't very good at being her, and because I wasn't very good at being her, then I was feeling not good enough.
And that's why we said when we come home and we take off those labels, take off the coat, we take off the masks, that's when I began to realize that's not the same person at home. Or at least in my situation, I was trying to be that same person at home and the personality was still coming across as too masculine, too aggressive. And at that point in my life, I didn't know I was doing that until obviously I got into this work and realized, now I know how to switch. But I'm sure there are many women that have listened to the podcast, and that's probably why we're having this conversation of what does real confidence look like? So I don't know if you can share from that perspective, because I know you talked about it, gave a couple of examples, but I probably a lot of people go, what do I need to shift? And I know you talked about it there around the beingness.
So I feel real confidence is inside, it's not outside. Real confidence, as an example, means going to a party and being stood by yourself and being absolutely okay with it.
Yes.
Real confidence means
don't need to talk to everybody.
If you want to, great. Yeah. I and I always say, like, it's not about being the loudest in the room or the boldest and brassiest and the most popular. It's about being deep rooted in who you are and knowing your core values. Now, somebody might look at me, and I know friends and family are like, "Oh, and you're so loud. Like, how can you say that?" But that is me. That is my genuine self. When I talk about you don't have to be the loudest in the room, it's if that doesn't fit for you. Like, I am generally a talkative person, generally loud. So that fits for me. And it was after, but more so, confidence is about, like I said, being deep rooted. And I talk a lot about the analogy of a tree. Yeah. So if you root yourself like a tree roots into the ground, then you're there strong, you're sturdy, you're certain of yourself, and you've got the storm weathering around you. And this can be external noise, opinions, people, situations, whatever it is. But it's okay because you know who you are. So that's what true confidence looks like.
Absolutely. And look, just to build on that, I always say that you can go to your emotions. You want to understand where you're at and how you feel about yourself. I say there's 5 areas you can look at. Look at what you wear, look at what you're feeling, look at the language you're using, and look at the music you're playing, and look at the people you hang around with. That will tell you everything you want to know about your self-worth and confidence. Because if you're confident to work to it, like you say, you walk into a room, once upon a time, I was a shrieking violet. I can just own that. And I would never think about wearing bright clothes or
Yeah.
walking into a networking room because I'd be like, who do I want to talk to and why? Whereas now, like you say, when true confidence stand out, when you know who you are, it's okay.
Yeah.
You'll be able to cope with anything.
So just like you're saying, for me, anybody that kind of has known me for a while would probably be like, she seems pretty much the same. But before,
Yeah.
it was a character I was having to put on.
Exactly.
It was like, right, are we ready? Okay, let's walk in. And now it's like, hey, I'm here, guys.
And that's okay. That's what I said. Is it's if it's part of your natural personality, people will know the difference between when you're faking it and when you're being it. That's the way I look at it. And the best analogy, I'm going to move this on a little bit into the end. So I want to talk about your dad. That episode, just grabbed me. But when I think of energy, and this is the way I can only explain it, that for me, when I was doing the inner work and the confidence and the assertiveness and everything else, I wanted to understand, but am I changing? Because when I was around my own family, obviously they see me day in, day out, and we could have the same, and I knew I was managing my arguments and conflict and so forth very differently from where I was when I first started the journey. But I had the fortunate opportunity, and you hear about this a bit more in other places. I had the fortunate opportunity of going back to my ex-in-laws. And I tell you, this is how I understood energy. When I walked into the room, had a conversation, needed to get what I needed to get resolved, and my ex-mother-in-law had said, it's you, but it's not you. That was the pin drop moment for me.
I just got goosebumps.
I know it's exactly how Neeti felt, but that was the moment for me because there was just like no pulse. Like I didn't get triggered. I didn't feel I'm having to fight my way through this conversation. If anything, it was the other way around. For someone else, I could feel it, that my confidence was
because you were
vibrating
rooted in yourself.
Exactly.
You were that tree that was not affected by anything else around her.
And that's why I want to get this across, that confidence isn't about I walked in and got through and I've done my speech and I've made an impact. It's the ongoing of how you show up. And that's really what this work is about, whether we're talking relationships and in marriage. Don't have to fight your way to show your worth. And so many women go there. I'm sure you hear it as well.
And it comes from a hurt place.
Yes.
I always say we want to communicate and move forward from a healed place rather than a hurt place. And the only way I can describe that to listeners is when around our heart, we all have these barriers, right? We all have these walls that we've put up because of heartbreak, because of betrayal, grief, whatever it is, just to protect our heart. Whether we realize it or not, those walls are there. And when we're trying to show worth from a hurt place, it's from outside of those walls rather than inside of those walls.
The classic line, you don't value me, you don't respect me. Certainly I hear that, and I'm sure you've heard that.
You must hear that a lot.
I do.
In the work you do.
Hell I did. And then I question that. What is it like at work? Oh yeah, but at work I'm flying. I know my worth at work. No, you're substituting one for the other. And you now have got a yardstick thinking, well, this is what I am at work and this is what my level. And I said, you're still looking from the outside to be validated. You knew your worth. Doesn't matter where you're at work or at home. It would be here. It will be equal. You wouldn't have to justify either or. Because how you show up at home is how you show up at work.
So just like that, what I do is with clients, I get them to recognize the stories because like you said, it'll be that story playing out in a relationship at home, then it might play out in a friendship, then it might play out, and that story will play out throughout life. So I take clients back to the root of it. When was the first time you didn't feel valued? And I had a client that had this same problem with her husband, and actually it was a lot to do with how her relationship with her mom when she was younger, and she didn't feel valued, seen, or important from mom. And the more we healed her relationship with mom, the more she found that her and hubby were getting on, because that irritation, that grit that you feel, it just melts away.
Well, you have to prove yourself. It was like, I need to make sure my daughter are around. I need to know that I can cook, I take care of home. And your validation from mum, like I can just say it with my own mum, it's always, she acknowledges the growth, she acknowledges everything I do now. But I think previously I was forever wanting her approval. We all do. Let's be honest.
It's and this is what I say to people. It's like when we talk about it's all rooted in your childhood, it doesn't mean you had a disastrous childhood. It doesn't mean the best. Anything. It just means there were situations in which these beliefs were created. So a lot of, typically for Asians, like I get a lot of people that have probably been grouped together as cousins. Like if you've got an extended household where you've got the mom and the chachi and they went off to work and all the cousins kind of grew up together. That's just a situation. That's just a scenario. That's just something that happened. It doesn't mean you were, had a horrible childhood. But within that, that small child that went through that partly feels neglected, partly feels that lack of love.
Neglected, or there's something there in terms of
Yeah.
comparisons, the competitiveness, or the
Logically,
love, one or the
yeah,
other.
logically they know that
Yeah.
obviously it was fine. It
Yeah.
was what was needed. Everyone went to work and this is how we grew up. But there's that part of you in that inner child that, like you said, feels that comparison or lack of love or neglect. And that's the part that we heal.
And exactly that is what goes into the subconscious. So most of us, when we think back to our childhood, I know you either have a positive or a negative narrative, let's be honest, one or the other. Just this scenario like you've described, it goes so like you forget about it,
Yeah.
right? And when you're doing this work, that's when it comes out. Because it's not if I was aware of it, then I would have gone and told my mum. But you have to be
You're not
aware of
aware
it
of
because
it.
you're not
Yeah,
aware
you're
of
not
it.
aware of
You're
it.
going to be aware of it now, and that's the difference. So when many of us, all these lovely professional women that say, "I'm kick ass at my job. I don't need this. You need to sort my husband out," I kind of go,
Okay, honey.
There you go. I call her Miss Perfectionist, who says she
I
doesn't
love
need any
that, but can
support.
we just
That's
have
her
a
name.
little bit of look at you?
Yeah. Okay, honey. And you're like, okay, and you're content with, yep, everything is cool
Yeah,
with me.
disclaimer to that, anyone listening. Obviously, there are some relationships where, it's very different and there's narcissistic husbands, but we're talking generally.
Exactly. So I know you're a kick-ass professional. You've made it to, the level that you're at. You're doing wonderful at work. And that is when, I'm sorry to say it, and I've done it in my Love Thyself work. So when that course had come out, I think 2021 or 2022 at some point, it's in there I talk about Miss Perfectionist or Mrs. Perfectionist, where you are like meticulous to the T. Right. And everyone's going, oh my God, my house is too clean. No, but you are meticulous to the T, that you have judgments, you are critical because you're like, I need it so perfect.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things you talking about that when clients come to me and they are like that, like I've got to do, I've got to do, I've got to have the house clean, I've got to all that. I always say that comes from a few things. It's coming from your subconscious trying to keep you so busy to ignore everything that's going on inside. So it's a bit of a coping mechanism.
Absolutely.
Or B, it is expectations that have been put on you from a younger age.
Yeah.
Your nervous system has got to such a heightened point that it needs to continuously do. And when we talk about nervous system, when people are doing all the time, like saying, trying to be Miss Perfect, it comes from, I always say it comes from three things. It'll be A, keeping themselves so busy so that they don't have to look inwards and they don't have to understand what's going on. And I get this a lot. People are like, oh my God, I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. I'm going to have a nervous breakdown, but I don't have the time to look inwards. Yeah. Okay. The reason you don't have the time is because you're subconsciously keeping yourself so busy. Yeah. B, it is expectations. You've been so used to the expectations that have been put on you when you're younger that it's just normal for you to do all the time. Or C, your nervous system has got to such a point of being stretched that actually this is how you feel normal and how you feel like this is now your new normal. And when I talk about your nervous system being stretched, so things will happen in life that heighten your nervous system and you're being put under stress. Okay, fine. But that's your new set point then. Unless you do something to bring it down, that's your new set point. So you feel like you've got to just work at that stress level and then something else happens and it stretches that little bit more. And that becomes your new set point. So almost like your nervous system doesn't feel normal unless there's 100 things to do.
It's almost like the water analogy, right? So basically, you've got half a cup full, which is fine, you can manage. And then you take on more things, and slowly, as the glass begins to fill up, boom, you burst. And it takes one little thing, like your child didn't put away one toy, or your husband didn't put the gouda in the bin, something like that. Gouda in the bin means just rubbish in the bin, clarify. And it just tips you over the edge, and that is it. And in that moment, that's where I say Miss Perfectionist comes undone, because you can't keep it up, and it's almost like chronic fatigue. You can't switch off at night when you're going to bed. So I guess I'm trying to say here is that the confidence piece, you're either, like you say, masking it from all the ways that you think you're so amazing, that then you don't even allow yourself to sit in those emotions, be able to cry when it's appropriate to cry, or relax when you know you need to relax. I used to sit there. I remember in my corporate career, you could feel the tension in your shoulder. Yeah. You could feel the tension in your neck. Yeah, that's the sign. That's the sign when you know you need to work on you.
For me, it used to be anxiety in my chest. So I'd feel a real tightness in the chest. And it's all about, like, I used to just try and block it out or be distracted and put a series on or something and watch it.
Yeah, but people do that now. Netflix binge.
Do you know what I mean?
Couple of hours.
Because you're there and you're like, I can't breathe. Okay, I can't breathe. I just put Netflix on or put a series on. But that was a distraction.
Yeah.
But really, that tightness in the chest was, you need to look at yourself. And I always say this, when we come out in physical ailments, it's our body's way of saying, and this is the physical body of the work that I do.
Yeah.
It's a physical body saying, knocking and saying, help. I can't take this anymore. I need, like, anxiety for me when it was in my chest was literally my body saying, I can't take anymore. It's like the pressure cooker.
Yeah.
But we just tend to ignore these things.
Of course. And we go to the doctors,
We'll
get
go
some
for a walk.
remedies.
We'll have a bath. And it's,
Yeah.
oh my God, it will, okay, you're tipping out a little bit.
Yeah.
But you need to just really
let go of all of it.
Yeah.
So coming back to energy then. So when I listened to the episode with your dad, firstly, I am so sorry because I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me that life changes in an instant. You know, a mosquito bite that led to the dengue fever, led to all the challenges in his coming days.
Yeah. Changed like that.
At that point, you know, how did you switch? Like, obviously you're into Reiki healing, which I didn't know. So there you go. I learned something new. Every day's a school day about Aman Sunner's talents. But at that point, were your family like on board with what you're doing and into energy, or did you almost like that was the starting point for people to see what you were doing?
I have always been spiritual.
Yeah.
But again,
define spiritual for people, because I know they conflict it with being religious or faith.
I have faith.
Yeah.
I have faith, and my faith intertwines with God, Waheguru. With, I would say now, like Dad as my spirit guide, angel, and the universe. So when I pray to God, I pray to Waheguru, right? I go to the Godwara, I do my part. When I talk on a daily basis in conversation, I'm going to refer as universe.
Yeah.
But for me, they're the same things and they're intertwined. So when I talk about being spiritual, I've always felt slight intuition there. There's always been something. I would have dreams and then kind of phone my sister and be like, is this happening in your life? Because I dreamt about it last night. Or I'd be like, they laugh at me because I will sometimes, you know, just call and be like, I had this dream last night, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is going on. So it'd be on and off. I wouldn't be able to control it or tune into it. It just kind of come to me, and I'd be like, is that person okay? Like, and it was really random. So that was, when I say into spirituality, that was where I was at, and kind of I was interested in crystals, and I'd love a card reading or those types of things.
Yeah.
But again, because I wasn't honoring my true self and didn't know who I was or understand who I was fully, it was a part of me that I kind of shut and put to the side, because almost it's not taboo, but it's kind of not frowned upon either. I don't know how to kind of explain it, but it's an area that you kind of don't visit, right?
Absolutely. The only other thing I can associate, and I don't wish to offend you or anyone, I know if I'd gone home and said, oh, I'm into this, they'll probably say, you bargle, you're crazy.
Yeah. My mum doesn't love
Yeah.
My mum doesn't love it.
Yeah.
She trusts me and but again, when I say she doesn't love it, it's because it's kind of like, oh, you don't dabble in those types of things.
Yes, that's what I'm
And
saying.
I'm like, those types of things are my intuition.
Yeah.
So it's actually taken me a very long time. I think only last year, even after this incident with Dad, which we will go into, only I would say early 2024, I really owned it. And like there was other coaches in the industry that knew the work I did. And I was like, guys, I'm coming out of the closet. I'm going to fully talk about it more. I'm going to announce it more, because I worked on a lot of that fear of judgment. What are people going to say? Are they going to understand it? And then I got to the point that this work is magical. It changes people's lives. Sorry, I don't care.
Exactly. Do you know what you've taken me back to? It's when my background is NLP, as you may know, neuro-linguistics programming. I did it to a mastery level, and one thing that was part of it that I always shied away from, it was kind of up there on my Facebook for a little while, and I don't use it overtly in the sense of I use it in my work, but I don't talk about it overtly. I don't tell my clients, oh, by the way, I do hypnosis.
Yeah.
And it was like
hypnosis.
That. It was like that. That's how I relate the energy work to, of going, you know, people are going to run a mile. They're going to think you do black magic or jadoo. That's how it was.
Hypnosis is so different to what it actually perceived so different to what it actually is.
Correct. Yeah.
I love hypnosis, and it is such a powerful tool.
So
you know how you're saying about that collective healing, that's exactly actually what we felt with Dad. So Dad's a very sociable person. He was quite popular. He had a lot of friends. He was the one in the family that always touched base with everyone. He was kind of like, the heart of the family, when I talk even extended family. So when he was in hospital and everybody found out he was ill, I cannot describe to you the amount of well wishes, prayers, ardasa, love, everything that came flooding in. And it to this day, it kind of takes me back a bit because of the overwhelming. There's 4 of us siblings. There's my sister-in-law. There's everybody we know, everybody dad knew, mom knew. Like, even my husband was like, Aman, I cannot tell you the amount of messages I'm getting for you, for dad. Like, it's mental. And I truly, truly believe that those well wishes, those prayers are what got him through that week. That energy coming towards him is what kept him alive for that week. And even at the end, when we kind of realized that this is not going to happen, when we realized that, this secondary flare of sepsis has come up and it's not, there's no other way, I kind of said, I was like, I don't want any fear around him. I don't want any. So if he has lived this week with that beautiful energy, there's not a chance that we're going to allow fear around him. So we kept that, and we kept it, me and my brother, even till the last hour, we're just talking to him like, Dad, and the doctor had said he's in a coma, he can't hear you because it's an induced coma. And that to me straight away, I was like, yeah, right, jog on.
He can hear, yeah, exactly. He can hear me.
Whatever. I was like, he could hear me. So even to the last minute, we were just, still keeping his hopes up. Dad, you know what? And there was an instant, if you go and listen to that episode 4, there was an instant where we knew we had to let him go, and we've been holding on to him.
I was going to come on to that. That bit actually gave me goosebumps because it was like you were fighting his energy.
Yeah.
If those of you have ever watched, and I don't wish to, it's not the same, like watch the film Ghost. It was almost like a bodily reaction is what I was hearing, when Whoopi Goldberg was, get out of my body. Yeah. And I kind of felt like that's what your dad was potentially saying to you, like, stop it.
Just stop it.
Yeah.
And like I said, my cousin had been there from the beginning. So she'd seen the day or two before we'd got there. And afterwards she said to me, I don't know what you did, but he was ready to go before you got here.
And in that moment, you got to ask yourself, they're suffering, you're suffering. And I know nobody wants that.
And I was like, I don't know what I did either. Yeah. Like, at this point, I was like, oh my God. But it wasn't me. It was just, and this is, when you do this work, it is so important to remember and explain to people, I'm not doing anything. I'm just a channel. Yeah. I'm just almost like you tune into the radio station. The frequency is there. It's around you, but you're tuning in. I'm just the bridge between this energy, the universal energy, and the human world. So it was almost like those prayers, well wishes, love were all coming in and holding him. And kind of me being there was amplifying it because I was tuning it in and kind of channeling it towards him. Me and the other people that were helping. Like I said, I had friends, family, Reiki healers, pranic healers, all the amount of people that were helping was phenomenal, and it's something that I'd never forget.
And now it completely makes me relate to things differently. When people say, I send you love, I send you prayers, do that. Even in our own ardas, do that. Having had a bereavement in the family earlier this year, my mummy was suffering near on 25 years since my mummaji's passed away. And, her quality of life had really deteriorated, but she was never quite the same person after you lose your soulmate, effectively. It was said she was disciplined and everything else. And one of the things when my parents went to see her in the nursing home, they asked the children, have you done an ardas? She's suffering, do an ardas, let her soul choose what it needs to do, whether it wants to stay or whether it wants to go.
This is it.
Give her that is what the whole purpose of prayer for me really just simplified it.
We realised, and there was that pinnacle moment where I was like, we've got to let him go. We went in, and me and my brother spoke to him and said, Dad, we're ready for you to do what's right for you. It's okay, and we're okay with that. Like, you've done plenty for us. Are you okay?
I know. I always do this. It really gets me. Like, I'm in the car, I was okay listening to you because I'm on my own. But seeing you here,
and
really
we were like, we are okay with whatever you've got to do, and if you've got to go, it's okay. And maybe it's because we went through this process that, as siblings, like the 5 of us, we have a real peace with his passing. People really suffer with grief and really struggle.
Was there a moment of, I don't accept this? Or was it like you were so open to, I'm going to surrender? Or was it a little bit of some of the siblings that are not in this journey?
No, it wasn't that we don't accept this. And touch wood, as siblings, we very much are on the same page when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah.
And it was, this is his journey.
Yeah.
And this is what was meant for him. Because I talk about Dad being so rooted in Punjab. So, you know, it was, and it was what was meant for him. It was what he used to say all the time. So how can this be wrong for him? How can it was meant for him? The hardest bit about Dad passing has been managing Mom's emotions.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, there has been times after he passed, you know, we were, okay, the peace came in, there was anger. Why did you leave us?
Yeah.
How could you leave us? And that's normal because we're human at the same time. And I always talk about integrating our human emotions with our spiritual teachings. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So you have to feel those that human anger, that human grief, that human pain, and release it to then go back to, okay, I know where he's at.
And naturally, anybody that's lost either a parent, a partner, someone they love, someone they care about, it takes time. It's never a straightforward journey. We know grief has its own journey in itself. And for some people, that's the point at which you awaken. If not, you know, other elements in life, sometimes it's a broken marriage. And
the most randomest mental emotion ever, because in the morning you can be fine and in the afternoon, boom, it hits you. It can be you're driving along fine, you hear something on the radio and boom, you've gone. Like they talk about the stages of grief. It's just a roller coaster, and I don't think there's a right or wrong way of processing for anyone.
I could sit here and there's more questions coming up. I want to talk about energy and codes because we hear all these different languages and frequencies, and someone's probably listening going, what are they trying to do? Tune into the internet or the rate? Like, what are they on? You could, in a short spiel, I guess, is describe what's the differences, you know, when people say I download codes, because when I hear that sometimes, I'm not going to lie, I sometimes think they go, you what?
Yeah.
You know, what the jig?
So that's actually something that I don't do or say. I think when we talk about codes, when people talk about download codes, it's just a way of a different language, kind of, if you want to say, different expression. Yeah, that's it. So again, it could be that you talk about downloading light codes. I know many people that do work like that. For me, when I talk about downloads, it's kind of inspiration. It's literally the ideas that just drop. Like I'll say I had a download. Oh my God, it was just like this. Downloading codes or light codes is something that I don't feel like I'm quite able to speak about at the moment, because I've not, I don't think I've experienced that, if I'm honest with you.
Well, this is it, because we all hear about the matrix and frequency, you know, and for me, I'm just a simple girl. I love my manifestation, and the best analogy I can use is, you know, when you have a shower and by the time you've come out of the shower you remember something, or you come up with the idea. I call it coming up with ideas. It's the possibilities, the infinite limitless stuff that you can get. So that's why I said I'm probably on the early phases now, looking at energy. God knows if I ever will.
I see energy and the way I see it, I work a lot with light. It's always about universal light. It's always about divine light, and that's what comes into my work a lot of the time. And like even in my work, how I said my faith is both God and universe. I find myself, even when I'm clearing myself, I'll bring in divine light and say, oh, thank you, Waheguru, thank you, Waheguru, like, you know, and I bring it in together for me. So a lot of the work I do is with divine light. When it comes to things like downloads, again, I think it's just expression. It's expression of downloading codes, downloading ideas. There might be someone listening to this saying, no, I mean, you've got it wrong. Codes are completely different. That
Educate us. We're open to it.
No, tell us.
Coaches need coaching as well. Well, Aman, I just want to wrap up and say thank you so much for, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for accepting to be here. It's been an absolute joy. I wish you so much success and abundance with not just the podcast, but whatever you take on going forward. I'll keep being inspired and looking up at you as well. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I've loved having this conversation.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed it. Leave your comments below, either for myself and Aman, and I'll see you next time.